Okay. Good morning, everyone. I don't want to start early. Okay, no, it is 10:05. So I will invite us to have roll call right now, but I want to thank the members of the public who are here. You certainly are always welcome to get the agenda, but the agenda is pretty simple for this meeting. It's roll call, approval of the minutes, it's discussion of the calendar ordinance, and public comment to that respect. And if you have public comment that's on a different issue, we're open to that before we adjourn. So what we're going to do now is call for roll call.
Councilmember Green,
Present.
Councilmember Moreno, Councilmember Jeruso, Councilmember Harris,
Here.
Councilmember King. We have a quorum.
Okay, and for the record, there's a funeral this morning of a former council member, and I know that at least one council member who's on this committee is there. I'll be leaving to go myself after too long, but I don't think that we have a long agenda today. So I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the July 14th meeting. Second? It's been properly moved and seconded by Leslie Harris, who made the motion, and also Councilman King, who seconded. All in favor, please signify so by saying aye, or voting in machines. It's up. All right, 3 yeas, no nays. The minutes from the July 14th meeting are approved. Now we'll address the issue of calendar ordinance number 33745, and our presenter is Council Member Harris.
Thank you, Chairman Green. We have a presentation. We're talking about ordinance calendar number 33745, which I co-authored with Council President Moreno and Councilmember Jeruso. This ordinance primarily deals with the regulation of e-scooters, particularly those operating through an app-based model. We are not voting on this today, but we will take public comment. And just a reminder, public comment is limited to 2 minutes per person. We have a quick presentation, and then we'll hear from the administration, take questions from council members, and then take public comment. Next slide. So the city began regulating e-scooters in 2018 after declining to create a pilot. Additional enforcement powers are now necessary, which is why this is before this committee and will be before City Council. I want to run through the history of electronic scooters. And for the record, if you there's some photographs that we've included in this presentation. In early 2018, Council worked with leaders in the administration and scooter companies to design a pilot fit for New Orleans. Ultimately, that past council was unable to design a pilot with regulations that accounted for all of the concerns, the top two being public safety and obstruction of the right-of-way. On public safety, studies show that e-scooters cause more injuries than walking, bike riding, motorcycles, although accidents are less deadly. In New Orleans, drunk e-scooter riders and pedestrians only heighten the risk, as do our streets, which forces scooters to ride on the sidewalks. On the right-of-way obstruction, that same council concluded that certain parts of the city are too congested, are ready to accommodate parklets on the right-of-way, so we restricted parklets, and scooter riding, particularly parking, only add to that congestion. This is problematic when e-scooters are discarded mid-sidewalk, constituting illegal obstruction of the right-of-way. And later in this presentation, we'll have photos showing folks just abandoning these e-scooters. Frankly, in coming here today, I saw some e-scooters blocking the right-of-way, and so this is a real issue. The last council anticipated these issues, but declined to move forward with the pilot and to allow for enforcement, because scooter companies actually have come in and have operated in our city regardless of our rules. We are going to codify laws specifically citing scooters as an obstruction, allowing for immediate seizure and storage by the city at a cost of $100 per day per scooter. In 2020, the prior city council put together an ordinance very similar to the one we're considering today, prohibiting app-based scooter rentals except for those being rented from and returned to physical facilities. That council ended up tabling the issue, and it's now before this council. I want to show some photos of some e-scooters. So photo 1 is in District A. Photos 2 and 3 are in District B. And photo 4 is in District C. These show that companies operating e-scooters are literally blocking the right of way with these e-scooters. And you can see in the first photo, an abandoned scooter that is blocking the sidewalk. The city has tried to work with e-scooter companies to clear the right of way, including issuing cease and desist letters, holding calls with e-scooter operators, and they were informed back in the spring that they could not use the right of way for scooter operations. The Office of Economic Development has also informed businesses that setting these scooters out on the right of way is not appropriate or legal. This photo shows e-scooters in the French Quarter in District C. In addition to these steps, transportation, DPW, law, safety and permits, and the council offices have been fielding complaints and working on enforcement. This is especially true when e-scooters are used on the sidewalks. The city has collected and stored illegally deposited e-scooters pursuant to Code Section 154-1423, again at a cost of $100 a day. But the city is not necessarily in a position to regularly conduct enforcement, which continues to be a problem. So this ordinance clearly prohibits app-based scooters, which are leading to the obstruction that we continue to see. The only exception in this ordinance is scooters that are rented from and returned to a brick and mortar scooter rental facility, whose employees can oversee the safe return of scooters and the retrieval of dumped scooters. So even if we wanted to pursue adding e-scooters to our micromobility in New Orleans, we know that our Blue Bike CEA provides Blue Bikes with the right of first refusal to provide e-scooters. So this isn't something that we can allow to continue. I will say that there is an amendment before us. And again, we won't be voting on this ordinance today because it will need this amendment. And it'll need to go before the whole council. What this amendment does, we worked with the administration to tighten up the language, and we have Dan Jartres here in case there are any questions or need for context from my fellow council members. This amendment does a few things. It clarifies that DPW is the department enforcing the ordinance. It also codifies that scooters need to be returned to the store from which they have been rented, and that the scooter must be stored inside that brick and mortar store. This provides further protection from the risk of scooters being left out at or random businesses being incentivized to allow people to leave scooters outside of their stores. Finally, it adjusts the fines from $100 a day per violation that charges $250 per scooter for the first violation and $500 for subsequent violations. Again, that's per scooter. This adjustment will further disincentivize bad actors who may see fines as the just cost of doing business. Right now, before we get into questions from council members and the public, I know Dan Jartres from the administration is here, and I'd like to ask him to come up. And you're welcome to sit at the table if you want to.
This is fine. If you're
Perfect.
fine with this.
And I'm sorry for butchering your last name.
Oh, no worries. Good morning, council members. Councilmember Harris, thank you for inviting me up. Pretty much exactly what you just said. The administration is in support of the proposed ordinance as well as the amendment that's been offered. As you outlined in your presentation, the Department of Public Works has been responding to reports of obstructions of the public right of way and enforcing that consistent with the existing city code in chapter 146. These changes will further help the city maintain clear and unobstructed public rights of ways to ensure that people are able to walk and travel on those rights of ways and that they're not being unduly abused and privatized for these scooters. So can answer any specific questions, but in general, like I said, the administration is supportive of the ordinance introduced by the council.
I don't have any questions. I do appreciate the fact that you've given me information in advance that gave me a chance to consider it. And I know that there's time between now and when we vote, but I do share your concerns relative to blocking of the public thoroughfares, especially in a city which has many times very narrow sidewalks in certain areas, but that's just because of history. But are there any more comments? Councilman King? No? Okay. So at this time, thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll turn to, we have 4 cards on this particular matter. Aaron Holmes, VC Pora.
Good morning. My name is Erin Holmes. I'm the Executive Director of VC Pora, and we are here to speak in support of the ordinance and the additional amendment offered from Harris's office. Our opposition to an app-based e-scooter system, one that allows people to rent and ride directly from the public right-of-way, is purely about public safety. 4 years ago, the city smartly decided to not allow the rollout of an app-based fleet. We didn't have the resources to safely regulate them then, and we certainly do not have them now. The e-scooters in physical locations allowing them in physical locations like bricks and mortar stores where they're rented and returned to the exact location will support local businesses. This also allows the city to regulate the scale. Without these provisions, an out-of-town app company can scale very quickly. Austin right now has over 11,000. Interestingly enough, a study that came out of Austin found that riding on a stand-up scooter is 200 times more dangerous than any other vehicle. Additionally, a study showed that accidents involving intoxicated riders have shown to increasingly include facial trauma injuries, which means that our drunk drivers are literally falling on their faces. So we appreciate the attention that y'all have taken to effectively regulate e-scooters now, and we continue to want to work with you and we support the ordinance. Thank you.
Okay. DeAnthony Fleming.
Good morning, City Council. My name is DeAnthony Fleming. I own a app-based scooter company in the city, and I don't know where to start. I've been testing the app since October of last year. I haven't been having any issues to the summer of May of this year. The Department of Public Works confiscated 4 of my scooters and ended up sending me a bill for $6,000. For this, they were saying that the reason was because it was blocking a public right of way. In my app, I have it to where my customers, if they ride a scooter, that they have to upload a picture of it properly parked at a bike rack. I have no ride zones also, like up and down Bourbon and also in parks that customers can't ride. Like those scooters are none of those scooters that are up there are my scooters.
Question: How long have you been in business?
I've been testing since October of last year.
We say testing.
Yes, just testing the app because this is my first time building the app. Working with a developer to build the app.
All right, and you do not have a brick and mortar store?
No, sir.
Why is that?
It'll put me out of business, and even with a brick and mortar store, it won't cater to locals. I work with a few kids from the Covenant House that use the scooter to get back and forth to work. If they would have had to come to a brick and mortar store to rent the scooter if I was to have a brick and mortar store.
So you're saying, I want to make sure I'm hearing you clearly, that if you were forced to get a brick and mortar store, that would put you out of business?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's all I had. How many people do you have work? How many people work with you before you?
It's just me now.
And you have, so the kids from Covenant House or the individuals from Covenant House,
Yes.
they just volunteer?
No, they work for the convention center.
Okay.
So I guess they was using them to get back and forth to work, and I only was charging them $1
So they're
to
using the scooter, your
Yeah,
scooters.
to get back and forth work, and I was only charging them $1 to use the scooters.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I actually have a follow-up. So you said that your app has some, how do you enforce what your app says?
It sends notification to my tablet each time a rider is riding. Like if once they either pause a ride or either end the ride, they have to upload a picture and I get a notification to my tablet that the scooters are properly parked.
But what about, you said there's some signage or something that there are restricted places in the.
Yeah,
front
everything
corner
is in the
garage?
app. Everything is app.
My question is, how do you enforce that?
It won't allow, like even down Bourbon, since it's GPS, it won't, it'll beep 3 times and the scooter will turn off.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
The students who use your, the scooters now, where do they get them from again? I didn't.
I just
understand.
park them at the bike racks in front of the Covenant House.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have Larry Morgan.
Good morning to your councilmen and everybody in the house. I ask you all to be fair with the young man who's trying to get up on his feet and starting a business without taking the scenario as many young men are going out here to do, holding up people, hijacking cars, stealing from people, and trying to do something that is right. I watch many violations in the city. And one of the biggest scenario of it is that flea market over the river. They are serving food without border health city permit, but yet they are constantly doing it every week. And nobody addresses that problem and tries to stop them. Be fair with him. Give him a chance to get his business and support his family. He don't want no welfare. He's doing what is right. And many other people that uses his service, they commence upon it because it helps them in transportation to go where they have to go. Please be fair with him. He's very young and he's trying to do what's right. And you all are there to represent rightness and think about King. He opened the door for you all our Black people who are in business today and hold position like this. Honor King and support him.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Alan Johnson.
Hello, my name is Alan Johnson. I live in 1418 Charters. I'm the president of Faubourg Meridian Improvement Association. I appreciate and applaud the effort that you're making here, but I have to say I am fully against these scooters. I've seen them in other cities, and those are older, newer downtowns, wider sidewalks. For those of us who live in the historic core, we have very narrow sidewalks. We can't accommodate these scooters. I've passed them on Frenchman Street in front of my house, which is between Bourbon and Frenchman Street. And I've seen them riding on the sidewalks. We have what I will call an alcohol fueled tourism industry down in the French Quarter and down in the Marigny. I'm very concerned about some of these scooters and the people being on them late at night or during the day, even going from bar to bar, because that's what a lot of the pedestrian transportation, this is going to replace. That's what it is. What's going to happen when I come out in the morning and I see that my car has been hit, which has been hit by cars twice, actually, hit and run drivers, when it's been hit by the scooters? Who do I contact? How do I find out which scooter company is responsible for these? I have a lot of concerns about this as we see the rest of the country pulling back from these app-based scooters. We need to sort of follow that lead, if you ask me. I understand what you're trying to do. I understand the regulations. I hope they're successful, but my fear is that placing them in our historic core neighborhood where we don't have the infrastructure, placing them in an area with so many ABOs, I fear is a mistake. But I appreciate the efforts that you're trying to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chuy.
Oops, sorry.
As always, my name is Albert Chewy Clark. I'm always here to represent three groups. One of them is Neighbor Jordan. One of them is Morris, Mobilization, Racism, and Government Everywhere. Other one is the POCC, President of Council Committee. It's really interesting. You know, again, what's the difference between the scooters and the blue bikes? You know, I mean, we have blue bikes all over New Orleans, you know, no storefront, you know. In the case of young brother, businessman, you know, I mean, when we gathered, they didn't pound 4 of his scooters. You need to pay $6,000 in order to, I guess, get them back. You know, y'all don't think that's excessive fine? I mean, how can you do that? You know, how can you, in a sense, you know, be a business person here in New Orleans when you got folks, you know, in City Hall, such as you all, you know, who are trying, in a sense, you know, break his business. I mean, I don't know how you could do this, you know? You know, answer the question. Somebody can at least address that issue there. You know, you don't think it's unfair for y'all to be, in a sense, trying, in a sense, kill his business, you know, telling him that he, in order for him to, you know, set up shop, you have to have a storefront. You know, why the blue bikes, you know, why do they have a storefront? I mean, they're all over our community. They're all over our community. Do they have a storefront? But that's kicks, you know, y'all, I mean, ain't like nobody won't be able to talk about this. That's you gonna just run my time out, you know. Nobody gonna be able to, you know, be honest and address that issue there. I mean, that's the issue in reference to what is politics. Is politics? A lot of times that's what it's about. Politics, you know, about who got the biggest money.
Thank you, Mr. Chuy.
Huh?
Your time is up.
I
Thank
know
you.
it. There you go, you know.
Thank you, sir. Brian Luckett.
Good morning. My name is Brian Luckett. I live at 936 Gallier Street. I have a PhD in public health, and I've been working in public health research for over 30 years. So when I heard about this proposed ordinance, I decided to have a look at the peer-reviewed scientific literature about stand-up scooters and injuries. I found thousands of articles reporting on how dangerous scooters are. A study from Austin, Texas found that the rate of injuries from scooters was 200 times greater than that associated with all other motor vehicles. But scooters get even more dangerous when alcohol is involved. A study from California found that alcohol use quadrupled the risk of hospitalization following a scooter injury. Among scooter injuries, alcohol use increased the risk of head and facial trauma by 10 times. They found that intoxicated riders were also less likely to have injuries to their hands and arms because the alcohol slowed the response times and they never even put their hands out to break their fall. They just face plant into the street. But it wasn't just riders that experienced injuries. Another California study found that 6% of scooter injuries were elderly people who tripped over them on the sidewalk. A study from Tel Aviv found that stand-up scooter accidents increased 6-fold after the introduction of a shared e-scooter program, such as being proposed with this ordinance. After everything our frontline healthcare workers have been through with the pandemic, let's not saddle them with this too. Please kill this ordinance before it kills someone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luckett. Mr. Baptiste.
Elder Baptiste. I support that young brother with the scooters because at the end of the day, You talking about a young black man that's trying to do something right. When y'all talking about crime, y'all gonna put this young brother out of business. Now the guy he brought some statistics. I do agree with the statistic, but we need to put an amendment. We need to put safety rules and support this young black brother. This young black brother can be robbing. He can be stealing. He can be hurting somebody. So I'm supporting this brother 100% with his company. And I'm just asking y'all to put some amendments or put some provisions, but don't put a young black brother out of business. You know what I'm saying? And just make sure some safety rules are put there for the scooters. That's all I wanted to say. So Mr. Eugene, I'm still waiting on my time. I just wanted to run up here and speak about that.
Thank you, Mr. Baptiste. Nika? Nikki?
Well, I had very little time. Nikki Savinsky, 1011 St. Philip, French Quarter Citizens. I'll be honest, I'm not sure whether I support or oppose this. I wholeheartedly, and I think most people in the French Quarter wholeheartedly don't want scooters. We can't even drive down our street right now. I have a neighbor out cold because he fell on the street when he returned from the hospital and hit his head, and he may not live. We're going to let scooters on our streets? Come on. So it's almost like supporting the lesser of two evils. Like, we don't want the app base, but if there's a storefront, maybe there's more responsibility. It's the lesser of two evils. I think that it's got to be regulated. What we've seen with all of these shared economy businesses is there's no regulation, there's no enforcement. This man could be the most responsible scooter app-based business owner on the planet. That doesn't make his customers responsible. My boyfriend's been hit by a bicyclist riding down Burgundy with no hands. She blamed him and got up and left him bloody in the street. He travels all over the world. I've been to Munich. I've seen these scooters piled in piles along with the electric bikes. I don't know what the answer is, but you got to have a lot of regulation and a lot of insurance, because what happens when that Covenant House student falls? Does he have adequate insurance? Does the city have adequate insurance because they fell in a pothole? There's a lot to think about here. And as I said, you know, I feel like I'm supporting the lesser of two evils by having it be a storefront. To be honest, I don't really support the scooters at all, but I feel like that's my choice. So thanks.
Thank you. Are there any more public comments on this issue?
Yeah, we have 2 online comments.
Okay.
The first is from Mary Mizingubala. She says, I'm opposed to electric scooters as they are terribly dangerous to the riders and the general public. However, if you insist on allowing them, I support this ordinance. It will hopefully keep the numbers down and allow for some regulation and control. And the other comment is from Robert Sims. I support tightening the regulations for electronic scooters. I live in the French Quarter, and these e-scooters are a growing problem. In the French Quarter, I do not see why we allow these at all. The Quarter is a walkable place, not an amusement ride for e-scooter riders to see how fast they can go by ignoring traffic laws and endangering others. In addition, many of our streets are in poor condition, making it dangerous to ride an e-scooter with their very small wheels. That's it.
Okay, I want to thank the members of the public for being here today. And I want to thank all who made public comments, including online comments. Mr. Baptiste, you actually had additional time on your
Mr. Baptiste, before we get to that, I had a couple questions.
Oh, okay.
About this topic.
Okay, if you could come up to the mic, you have 2 minutes, but it's important and imperative that you fill out a card so we have a record of your comment.
Okay.
Be sure to get a yellow card. If you could get one to him, I'd appreciate it. Your name, sir?
My name is Jerry Cook, and I'm compelled to come here today to let you know why they have a crime problem and why it is what it is and what we need to do to fix it. And I don't think I'm gonna get it in 2 minutes. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask for a council with all of y'all after the meeting, because that is something very important I need to impart to all of you about the crime and just about a lot of other things dealing with, and I'm not some nut who just flew in. I came with wisdom.
I mean, we're
And-
always going to respect your right to speak, but I mean, we meet on,
I'd like to
October
meet
the
with
6th.
y'all after the meeting.
well, we're not all here. For example, I'm going to a funeral.
Well, I'd like
You
to meet
have
with
to
the
be on-
ones that are here then. How's that? I mean, just y'all. It won't take the 5 minutes for me to get a message across to you.
5 minutes, you're going to give us the solution to crime.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I'll be glad to talk with you for a minute before I go to a funeral.
Okay.
I can't speak for anyone else.
Okay.
Okay.
What about the rest of y'all? Y'all.
No, that's all right.
give
We
me
don't have to
5
do it.
minutes?
We don't have to do it that way. You've asked to speak.
That's
and if
all I
they-
want.
You don't have to, nobody's going to be put on the spot.
Okay.
I'll give you 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. So I have a couple of questions, or maybe just comments about this. What is the difference? And Mr. Clark mentioned earlier, and I was thinking about between a scooter and a bicycle. If you get on a scooter, on a bike, inebriated, I think they both pose a legitimate fear or legitimate concern for those. You can speak to that. All right.
The question was about the difference between blue bikes and.
Well, not,
or-
I'm not singling out blue bikes, just getting behind a bicycle or getting on a bicycle drunk and a scooter drunk.
Bicycles are legally defined as vehicles by the state of Louisiana and every state around the country. Scooters are not. So bicycles already have established rights and responsibilities under the traffic code of what people operating a bicycle are required to do and how they interact with other traffic. So that's one of the big differences in terms of how they operate on the roadways.
So would the city, or maybe it's a state issue, would we need to create an ordinance to kind of regulate the rules to get on a scooter?
The state has defined scooters and as well, and they have defined them as not a vehicle. So there's the opportunity to define regulations about how scooters operate because they do not by default have the same rights and responsibilities as another vehicle.
Okay, so that's the legal answer. But what is just a practical difference? If I get on a bike drunk, if I get on a scooter drunk, I still could run into someone, I could run into property. Like, I'm not trying to be confrontational. I really don't know the difference.
I mean, from our perspective, I don't see that as necessarily the driving factor of this ordinance. This is about ensuring that we're keeping the public rights of ways free of obstructions. That's what DPW has been attempting to do with the ordinances that are currently in place, and their ability to do that will be strengthened by this proposed ordinance. Individual users of any vehicle or any scooter can make decisions that are detrimental, and we have other laws in place about impaired driving, for example, that are meant to deal with those kinds of activities, but that's not directly part of this ordinance.
Okay. That was my main question. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Can I ask you about the blue bike CEA and the right of first refusal? Can you talk about that?
Sure. So the city of New Orleans has a multi-year cooperative endeavor agreement with Blue Crew is the name of the local nonprofit that was created in order to provide bike share service in the city of New Orleans. That nonprofit is partnered with the city via that cooperative endeavor agreement in order to provide the bike share service. That agreement lays out requirements on behalf of what the city is expecting from them in providing that mode of transportation. The city views bike share as one of a slate of public transportation options that our citizens have available, just as they can use RTA to meet their transportation needs. So that CA lays out the requirements that the operator has to meet. It has metrics, reporting requirements, and alignment between the goals of the city and the goals of the operator. And I think one of the crucial ones there is around equity. A private business operating not in partnership with the city is trying to make a profit to be supported. Bike share as a means of transportation, is not. We don't look for transit to make a profit. We're not looking for bike share to make a profit. The city wants bike share to be available to the citizens that need affordable transportation options. So our partnership with them allows us to make sure that we're able to have that transportation options in neighborhoods where our residents don't have access to cars, maybe don't have access to other forms of transportation, and we're providing a new and additional option for people to use.
And can you talk about the infrastructure that Blue Bikes has? So for example, the bike racks.
Sure. Blue Bikes provides that those bike parking spots at the Blue Bike stations as part of the agreement with the city. There is a permitting process that they follow that those locations, when proposed, are reviewed by primarily DPW. And there's standards for placement of those to ensure proper sight lines and there's no obstructions of the public right of way or obstructions of utilities. And those locations are part of the agreement in terms of how many bike parking spots that Blue Bikes has to provide under the terms of the CEA.
And I understand they do have a warehouse where they store bikes, collect bikes, work on bikes. Is that correct?
Yes, they're an entirely local operation. They're not part of any larger service, or they have a warehouse here in New Orleans. They have, I don't know their exact current employee account, but they have people that do bike maintenance. They have people that are out in the field checking on the bikes, responding to any issues that come up about a damaged bike or an improperly parked bike, et cetera.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. I have no questions. The proper way to address a request to have something said that's not on the agenda is to amend the agenda. So at this time, I'd like to, in the interest of a member of the public who wishes to express a concern that's not relevant to what's on this agenda, I move to suspend the agenda to allow a 2-minute presentation by Eldon Baptiste. Is there a second?
Thank you,
All in-
Mr. Green.
wait, we got to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Green, for allowing the 2 minutes. Let me tell you, Mr. Green, that's not to you, but let me tell you what your bodyguard did yesterday. He threatened my life. And I want you to know, Mr. Eugene Green, that what your bodyguard did. I can't hold you for it because you wasn't out there. But just to all the council members, y'all bodyguards should not be threatening members of the community because he got a recall. I'm not scared of your bodyguard, Mr. Eugene Green, but I want to thank you for giving me the time. But what your bodyguard did in the Tremie yesterday is unacceptable. And what I want you to know, the community is outraged about it. They're outraged about it because I go and I do what council members can't, because nobody can call y'all at 2 o'clock in the morning and tell y'all they need food, they need help. But Mr. Green, again, I don't want you to think I'm attacking you, but what your bodyguard did was wrong, Mr. Eugene Green. And I want you to know I'm not scared of him. I won't be bullied by no council members because I recalled the mayor. Y'all should be happy somebody stepping up doing what y'all supposed to do. Have y'all saw the wisdom fund? The mayor has stole the wisdom money. The mayor has stole the Ford Together money. The mayor went on TV and said, I'm not accepting New Orleans is the capital of the murder crime rate. Something is wrong with the mayor, but the council should do more and put rules and hold on this mayor in this city. We are tired of people dying. We are tired of people being carjacked. We are tired of people being robbed. We are tired of our infrastructure. We are tired of seeing council members taking photo ops and getting us the woos. The public deserves better. Black, white, Latino, no matter what your color is. But we must hold Mayor LaToya Cantrell accountable.
Okay. And that is the correct procedure for the record, even for members of the council. If we wish to change the agenda, we change the agenda to allow someone to speak on something that's not on the agenda. So unless there is any other matter to be brought before the body and any member of the public can still make a comment, I'll move for adjournment. It's been properly moved and seconded for adjournment. All in favor? No opposed? Thank you all again for being present. Well, now we are absolutely gonna follow. No. I just asked if a member of the public had a comment. You're welcome to do that, but it's not on the agenda and I don't want it to be on the record for the record.